You're listening to Talk Star Wars, a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Talk Star Wars is a production of Emotionally 14. For fantastic podcasts, video series, blog posts, and much more, visit us on the web at emotionally14.com and enjoy content for the permanently teenaged. Hello there, and welcome back to Talk Star Wars, episode 172, an Emotionally 14 production. I'm your host, Rob, and I'm joined, as often the case, by the Chewbacca to my Han Solo, the Lobot to my Lando. What?
We filmed an episode of Fire When Ready yesterday. And I said to Ian, you're a Chewbacca to my Han, or a Han to my Chewbacca. Yes.
Oh, lovely.
How amazing, how unified on a subconscious level Team E14 is.
Well, there you go, see. Anyways, Brad Harmer Barnes is with us.
Woo!
Hello.
Everyone's favourite Harmer Barnes. There's only three of them.
And to be fair, one of them is probably too young to appear on video.
Yeah, so far. Yeah,
give it time. Give it time.
Yeah.
How you
She'll
doing?
join in eventually. Yeah, good, really good. Yeah, getting super hyped because we've got a convention appearance coming up
in 3 days' time.
This Sunday, which obviously, so if you're listening to this on Patreon, there's still time to pick yourself up a ticket and come and join us, which is Broadside 2019 in Kent.
There'll be a Facebook event link on, I want to say E14 and Talk Star Wars Facebook tomorrow morning, which will be Friday.
Okay, awesome.
Because
So
we've got an episode of Fire When Ready, which will be out by the time this goes out.
Yeah.
Either way. So it's almost like I planned it.
It's let's go with that.
Yeah, I did.
Shut up.
Yeah. I'm okay with, people
Part of
knowing
being
that
an
I'm
evil
flying
genius is not admitting when you're winging it.
Ultimately, I'm fine with people knowing that I fly by the seat of my pants sometimes, because when I do pull stuff off, it's infinitely more impressive.
Yeah, true. That's very true.
And it's accidental. Wow. Yeah. This guy, if he only had half a brain, he would be something. I want to go back and rewrite like some Silver Age Fantastic Four stuff where Doctor Doom is just literally winging everything. That would be so wonderful. Especially just the origin story onwards. He's just his initial acts of evil are just like, oh really? Okay, right, fair enough. Cool. I guess I'm a supervillain then. Cool.
I own a country. Well, that played out well.
Well, but I did not think I was going to win that auction. All right, well let's go build that reactor.
Yeah.
Little bit of
good.
Star
How
Wars
are you?
Robot Chicken reference there for those keeping track at home.
I enjoyed it.
I know you did. Yeah, we've enjoyed that episode together. I seem to recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I know we talked about it a little bit off the air, but I've been on a little bit of a social media break. So you will have no doubt seen on Twitter and stuff. It's all been the automatic posting that kind of is designed to keep the accounts warm. That's the way I look at it. I've given myself a little bit of time off because I feel like I've earned it. And I'm getting to the point now where I'll probably dip back in, in the next week or so, I guess. Probably, maybe. Yeah. Who knows? We'll see. Stranger things have happened. And I've got season 2 to get through before season 3 starts.
Yeah, same.
Otherwise, I've been binging TV series. Done a bunch of them. Netflix stuff. Other services are available. I haven't actually done any of those other services, even though I subscribe to them. I should probably get on that. I watched, I think we talked about it briefly, maybe last episode or the episode before, Chernobyl.
Oh, yes.
Have you followed the...
I don't have the service it's available on.
No, but I tell you what.
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
It's like reading Solzhenitsyn. It's harrowing, but at the same time it's gripping. Mm-hmm. It's just, reading a book like that, or, grabbing a series like that, especially when you realize how much of it's based on true events. Yeah. It's just it's simultaneously gripping and really depressing, but in a way that makes you go, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that's weird about it is everybody's got British British or American accents, which is...
No one's made any effort.
No, but then I wonder if maybe that's current year syndrome, where people are like, oh, well, if we tried to do the accents, people are only going to complain that we were sort of satirizing it or sending it up or whatever. And who needs the hassle, you know? So maybe everything will just be, in future, everything will just be in the actor's natural accent. No attempts made by anyone to put anything else ever on, as the acting world just descends into farce, even more than it already is.
I mean, contrary to popular opinion, I'm not actually an actor, but I would think that regional accents are probably one of the first things you'd try and master if you were.
I would think so, but then at the same time...
There's some famous actors who just obviously don't try in the slightest, regardless of what film they're in.
But I feel like Sean Bean still gets work because everybody loves Sean Bean.
Sean Bean, Sean Connery, Michael Caine all do... They've never put an accent on it.
No.
I mean, Sean Connery famously has a thick Scottish accent pretending to be an Egyptian Spaniard.
Yes, he does.
Demanding to know what haggis is in Highland.
Lest we forget.
Yeah. And he's also, a Greek king in Time Bandits.
Well, quite.
With a thick Scottish accent.
Or John Wayne as Roman Centurion. Is it Roman Centurion or a Roman prisoner? I forget.
Yeah, he's a Roman soldier in The Greatest Story Ever Told.
Surely thou wert the Son of God.
Do you know the story behind that?
I do not, no.
Oh, okay. As you saw, his one line in it is, truly he was the Son of God. It's just a little cameo at the end of the film. And the director said to him, that's good, but try and do it with a little more awe. And he goes, he truly was the Son of God.
Yeah. I seem to recall giving Blake some stage directions that also kind of resulted in a similar effect. But so I've been doing a lot of Netflix series, not so much in the way of Star Wars stuff. My Star Wars stuff, my limit to that was I picked up the Vanity Fair actual physical print magazine that is finally on shelves now. I got the Kylo Ren cover because love Daisy Ridley though I do. And fine as I am with the character of Rey, it was the Kylo one that looked cooler to me on the shelf. They had both.
Good as reason as any.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, I'm one of those. I've got to the point now where I'm past that whole variant cover thing. When the content inside, anyway, but I can understand it when it's not £5 a magazine.
Yeah, okay.
That's a lot to It's a lot to spend just to read one article anyway. I mean, there's some stuff in there about Michael Avenatti. I couldn't care less. There's some stuff about Mindy Kaling. Yeah, fine. I'll read that. Maybe give that a skim. But I obviously was really interested in the Rise of Skywalker stuff, and that's a really big piece of the magazine, and it's really well done. But, beyond that, that's literally all I'm buying the magazine for. So the idea of then buying two, because the cover is, the cover is lovely. Nah, it's just, I just can't,
I feel like if you're into collecting Star Wars magazines, man, that's a hell of a task.
Oh, yes. I mean, just the Star Wars magazine itself would be a Herculean task in and of itself. And then you also factor in all the, all the licensed stuff that goes out, like Vanity Fair and Total Film and Empire and stuff. And
I'm sure people are doing it. And if that's your thing, then you're bonkers, but we love you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, more power to you if that's your bag. And if it's your bag and boards, then even better still. I assume that magazine collectors bag on board. You'd hope, right?
Yeah, you could definitely get like comic book bags.
That's slightly bigger ones.
For like magazines, because I remember ordering some
trade paperbacks
for you get wargaming magazines which will come with a full board game.
Oh, I know the ones. I know
the magazines are quite expensive. They tend to be like £30 for a magazine. Everyone knows you're actually buying the game,
but you get the full system with it, and that's just kind of the magazine is also
a fully self-contained game. The magazine, because they tend to be historical, they tend to be historical interest magazines, all tied into what the game's around as well. If you're into that thing, they're really good. But yeah, I remember ordering some magazines for because obviously I want to keep the magazine and all the counters and all the maps and stuff conveniently together, and I got my dimensions horribly wrong, and it was like they were in a bin bag. These things were huge.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Yeah, yes. I've done that before too. Like ordered, we talked about it off air. I try and selling some stuff on eBay. Other services are available, and to be honest, if I could find one that would let me deal in the volume I want, I would totally switch. But I ordered boxes, and I also ordered the foam packing peanuts that you get with, like, just to sort of line the box out with. I ordered 5 cubic meters.
That's quite a lot.
It is a lot. It basically, you know, when you buy pillows, or like a duvet cover, and it comes in that big sort of package that's sort of you basically have to just kind of give it a cuddle to get it home.
Yep.
One of them.
Yep.
One of them arrived, packed pretty tight. It had been so lightly packaged that the Royal Mail had actually had to seal it back up with a big label that said, "Sorry, it's come apart," because it was just basically it was in a bin bag, and that was how it was shipped. But at the same time, they were stupidly cheap, and I can't really complain. But it's one of the things I sort of realised. I went into the post room at my office and went, oh, no. I have made an error here. I should have.
I have to get this home on the train.
Yeah, what I should have done is done some sort of taken advantage of some sort of click and collect to a local retailer. I think Argos does it. Other retailers are available. I don't know if they do click and collect. Again, you know, I do my due diligence. How much I need to do, I don't know. I can't imagine.
Do your research. We're here to talk Star Wars, not tell you where to buy stuff.
Exactly. I mean, you can shop at Argos if you want. They're fine. If your Argos want to take some money from me, they should also give me some back for that stellar advert. Because
Argos.
I put
it's a shop.
I positively put some of me into that. So,
Argos, do you like stuff?
Yeah, they sell it. Go buy it. Yeah. Go buy stuff with your money whenever you feel so inclined. And, you know, if it's at a price you feel is acceptable, that's like the best I can do. What else have I done? I did. Oh, have I been on a show since I read Thrawn the comic?
You have never mentioned it to me.
No, I did a bunch of comics. I'm looking at it here. I did a lot of comics.
Was this from Thrawn Moments, the adaptation of the book, or is it a separate series?
Separate series.
Okay.
So it deals with him all the way from Chiss Space to the beginning of Rebels Series 3. So it dovetails in quite nicely.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, again, it's a Thrawn thing. It's just him being awesome.
Yep.
Everybody thinks he's mad, and then he does something, and then you're just like, wow, actually, he's a genius. It's like, yep, we've been reading him for a while. Yep. We know these things. I've read a lot of DC Elseworlds.
Okay,
which is like the Infinities equivalent, or What If you're a Marvel or Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And, you know, I read a really good Green Lantern comic called Blackest Night, where it's all about characters.
The zombie one.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, nice.
I was quite pleased with that one. I read a Stranger Things adaptation, which was awesome.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's basically the whole premise of the story is it's Will Byers while the story's happening.
Oh, interesting.
It's only about 4 or 5 issues. You can get it on Comixology. Other services are available, pretty reasonably priced.
Okay, cool.
Are well worth your time. Absolutely fantastic. And actually, there's a bit towards the end that I don't think they cover in the TV series that you're just like, wow, okay, that's quite different.
Okay.
But it basically just displays him all the way through, and so it dovetails into the main story when he appears in the main story.
Okay.
So like if he's, you know, the bit with the Christmas lights and stuff, if you've seen things like that, you can sort of see his side of it while it's going on.
Oh wow, that sounds really cool.
And it's very very well done. Yeah, so I did a bunch of comics, including those. But Thrawn was the main one I wanted to mention because obviously it's Star Wars themed.
Yeah,
I'm running out of trades.
The Captain Phasma miniseries this week.
That's on my list. I don't think I've done it yet. How is it?
It's good.
Yeah,
it's between the novel and the Captain Phasma miniseries. It actually has annoyed me even more that she gets Boba Fetted so badly in the main movies
because there's compelling story there.
Yeah. But it's the premise of the miniseries is someone finds out that she was responsible for shutting down the shields on Starkiller Base, and it's her trying to cover it up.
Oh, I think I might have read a bit of that. I don't think I did the whole thing, but that sounds familiar. That's
really good.
Yeah.
I also read the Canto Bight novella.
Oh yes, I saw you read that. Yeah. How is it?
It's out of the 4 novellas in there, 2 I could barely be bothered to finish.
Oh wow! Okay.
1 was very good, and the other one was all right.
What kind of? No, not to go too deep into sort of criticizing country. But what was it about the two? Was there anything particular about the two that just kind of turned you off, or just did it just not grab you?
No, they were just fairly limp characters, and it was just. It didn't feel very Star Warsy enough to me. It was all very, because obviously it was a casino planet. There was lots of scum and villainy stuff, lots of heists, lots of ripping people off, lots of various gangsters trying to off various other gangsters, and it felt more like a Tarantino movie than a Star Wars book, I think.
Okay. It
didn't really feel Star Wars to me. I'll revisit it next time I do my lap around the timeline. Because I think I might mention before, basically I just crawl the timeline, and when I get to the end I go back to the beginning again.
Fair enough.
So after that, my next ones on my list are the DJ comic and then The Last Jedi.
Okay, so the novelization or the comic adaptation?
I know, I'll do the film.
Oh, the film. Right, sorry, I see. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I need to do that again at some point because it's been a little while.
Yeah, it'll only be the second time I've done it.
Yeah, be, I guess, third for me. Maybe. Yeah, I think I've done, not through any kind of deliberate act, but I think I've done four for Force Awakens. I think I did three for Rogue One, 2 for Last Jedi, and 2 for Solo. I did want to see Solo way more times, but just didn't get time. Force Awakens, when it dropped, came at a good time because everybody I knew was busy over Christmas, and every time I had an afternoon free, I would just go and see Force Awakens.
Totally fair.
Yeah, so it was just one of those things. And then
every time he gets to the bridge bit, you're going, maybe he'll be okay this time.
Maybe they've rewritten it after, they do that after fan backlash, right?
Not going to lie, always kind of hoping.
Well, I understand that. It's a character we've invested a lot of energy into over the years. And then they gave us a good backstory about him. So, maybe. Well,
I don't disagree with the direction the story's gone, but it's always just when I first saw it, it was just I felt on edge. I felt tense.
No, don't go back and do it properly.
I was just almost screaming, "Get out of there! Get out of there! Get out of there!" Yeah, I felt so bad.
Really invested. That's good. I mean, that's a good thing, right? I mean, the writing was pretty much on the wall when he was kind of filling that Obi-Wan, filling in the backstory part. That he was probably going to... I was still hoping. It wasn't going to go well for him when he walked out onto that gantry.
No.
I mean, not for nothing, they've got no handrails there. Safety is clearly a secondary concern in Starkiller Base. So, I don't know what they're playing at, but, I mean, clearly, we've seen what happens when they let safety drop. You end up with the Resistance destroying stuff for you. So, our first email of the week, have a guess.
Is it Michael Airy?
No.
Ah, damn.
Although you've kind of got a little mild spoiler for later on, but never mind, So our first message comes from Vesuvi, who is the ever present and ever loyal Vesuvi.
I've heard of her.
Yes, I'm trying to give her like a Thundercat style epic nickname, like a ever reliable and ever present, but in a way that's not doesn't evoke too much Mum Ra, because obviously.
Well, the Thundercats nickname is you just put O at the end, isn't it?
Vesuvio. That sounds like a breakfast cereal, though.
It sounds like a Phil Collins song.
It sounds like a Phil Collins breakfast cereal. There you go, Vesuvios.
Yeah, I'm sure it had Lino, Panthro, and Tigro, didn't they?
They did, yeah. And then Wily Kit, Wily Cat. That's no good. Yeah. Orko was in Master of the Universe.
Their most cat-like behaviour was turning up on Third Earth and just acting like they owned the place, while Mum Ra was just sat there going, Are
you taking the taking the rise? I've been living here for how long? Get off my land.
I'll sort them out with a laser pointer.
Yeah, that's the deleted scene I think they meant to leave in. Yeah. Which is just them just sitting on the porch licking themselves. Mum Ra's like, shoo. Gets a big broom out from his window. Just go away.
Get out.
Yeah, doesn't quite work out, sadly. So I think they cut it for pacing reasons, which I can understand. So Vesuvi writes, this is regards to last week's episode. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Brad. May the hay fever subside quickly. Do you know, that's just reminded me, and I'm doubly annoyed with myself. That's just reminded me that I forgot to get hay fever tablets today because I've run out, and I'm doubly annoyed with myself because I read these notes back this morning and I thought of it then too.
Yep, same.
All right, well, anyway, never mind. hurrah for Rob singing "Oh, Back Baby" to the tune of Love Shack. I just did it again. I'll let Fred Schneider, who personally complimented some of my early video work, know his music is still being enjoyed and translates intergalactically. Wow. Every time Vesuvi's like an artichoke. Every time she writes in, you just peel away this fascinating layer.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm in constant awe and a little bit envious of Vesuvi's life.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Just every now and then she just drops something. I'm just like, oh, I want that. I want to be able to say that about my life.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I'm sure.
I get it.
I'm sure there's other stuff that if I were to think about it would kind of, maybe she'd be envious of. I don't know. Who knows? But it's not a competition. I realize this. And I've come to terms with that. Anyway, I especially loved your exchanges about the hypersensitivity of online fandom and the unfortunate way it tends to be expressed. I certainly agree with Brad that it's redolent of juvenile tribalism.
I don't know what redolent means, but okay.
I think it means that it's from. I think redolent of is from, like for smart people who've read books.
Okay.
I do hope a sociological shift occurs where people are less likely to grab torches and chase perceived monsters until they plummet down empty wells or salt caves under windmills. To the point where the reaction is to recognize the humanity in the monster, who is really just a stranger, or better yet, the
benignity.
Is it benignity?
I think so.
I know benign is, I don't know, it just reads like it should be.
It's not being beaten over the head with a copy of Scrabble this week.
It's Vesuvi Thesaurus is her full title. Benignity. Or maybe even merit of the stranger, or strange idea. We're all in this boat together, folks. If we were all the same, that would be as dismal as a ladies' night in a clone-only tap room circa 21 BBY. They have the best pole dancers, I'd wager. Okay. I didn't know there was anybody keeping track, but I'm glad somebody is. But shame on Christopher Eccleston for swiping Brad's bin. I'm not going to dwell on that for anything. And if people haven't listened to that and have no context, even better.
No, brilliant.
Let's tar and feather him and ride him out of town on a rail. Crazy.
No, let's just go, oh, look at me. I was in Thor: The Dark World. Everyone's favourite Marvel movie.
An online petition has been started. Here's the link. This appears to go to the dictionary definition of joke. So nicely done. See what you did there. Very well played. Since you all re-mentioned your appreciation for a Star Wars story, did you all know of or participate in the Make Solo 2 Happen campaign is initiated by Star Wars Newsnet, which gained a fair amount of traction the week before last? A parting thought. So we'll come back to that question. Don't worry.
Okay.
A parting thought. Krennic's Cape really should have its own Wikipedia page, or perhaps a namesake drink at Ogre's Cantina in Galaxy's Edge. Cheers, Vesuvi, Knight of the Commonwealth. And then there's a PS, which has another question. So let's first of all jump back to, did you participate in or what did you make of the Solo 2 Happen campaign?
I saw the hashtag go by. I wasn't really sure how much traction it was gaining, but I endorse and support it.
Rob, I think I'm Rob. Ron Howard reacted to it, I think.
Oh, really?
Is my understanding. He acknowledged it. I don't think there was some comments made by him. And actually, speaking of stuff about fandom and hypersensitivity, right? And this is one of those situations where I'm going to give fandom the benefit of the doubt, because one thing that really annoyed me about the Ron Howard stuff is the number of clickbait outlets that basically implied that he only blamed online trolls for Solo not doing so well at the box office.
I've never experienced that.
Yeah, so there's two reasons I'm annoyed about it. One, it makes Ron Howard look like he's kind of just protecting the company line, as it were. Mm-hmm. Because it makes it sound like he's just kind of, defensive and kind of dismissive of other factors. But not least of all, because he mentioned 3 factors of which online trolls were a part. Okay. The other ones he mentioned were the crowded release schedule in May and another one that escapes me. But it just really annoyed me. And this is why I give fandom a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because these outlets drum up this stuff. Yeah. And they do it because, they do it for obvious reasons. They get clicks out of it and they drum up and then they can also, if they can drum up a discussion and especially if they can drum up some drama, they can report on that too. Mm-hmm. And they just have this kind of endless news cycle that's just, they put something kind of not misleading, but incomplete out there. Yeah. And then they milk the reactions to that. Like, look at how upset people are getting about this. Like, yeah, we're not with unreasonable You know, there's reasons behind why they're annoyed, and you can sort of sympathize with them because you're deliberately misrepresenting stuff for your own selfish ends.
Yeah.
It does kind of rile me a little bit because we don't engage in that. You know, if people ask us what we think of stuff, we give our opinions, and that's kind of as far as we go. We're not under any delusions of journalism when we talk about these things. But I do think sometimes there are these kind of, some of these sites have ideas slightly above their station. They think of themselves as kind of a Woodward and Bernstein of Star Wars drama, and actually what they're doing is just fanning flames of stuff that would probably just fizzle out if you just left it alone and just wrote what Ron Howard said, as opposed to just sort of selectively clipping out the stuff that suits your narrative.
Yeah.
But I digress. But yeah, he mentioned, one of the other things he mentioned, which I found quite interesting, was that, because obviously actually, I'll come back to it. Remind me when we get to Dave's question. I'll come back to it.
Okay.
It's relevant to a comment later on. It seems like a bit early to jump the gun on what could be an hour away.
Okay.
So Vesuvi's postscript. Have you seen the promotional image of Kylo's revised look from a licensing expo display? I've included both the original and an enhanced crop stroke detail. So I've attached them for your benefit, Brad.
I see them.
So you have, first one is, I tell you what, that is an awesome set of licensing expos anyway. And it just, that image, right? So for the benefits of those listening at home or wherever you tend to listen, there are 6 images on this thing. So there's the traditional Disney property with Mickey Mouse and Pluto having a cuddle, and that's lovely, you know, heartwarming stuff. There's Pixar with Bo Peep from Toy Story 4.
Okay.
Star Wars with Kylo Ren. Marvel with looks like Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and Iron Man.
Yep.
20th Century Fox with Homer Simpson.
Yes.
And National Geographic with what looks like some sort of great ape, but I can't really tell because it's cropped at the edge. But when you look at that and realize how huge a licensing bonanza Disney have worked themselves into in terms of a catalogue, it's really quite impressive. You really have to take that. You really have to take your hats off to them. They've done some very shrewd business to get all those properties in line.
Absolutely.
And it's incredible. And it also bodes really well for the catalogue of Disney Plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some fantastic stuff in this set. Anyway, I digress again. So the Kylo Ren picture, so Vesuvi included a sort of slightly blown up one of the helmet. So it looks like it's been kind of reforged. We did see, I feel like, in the teaser, there was a brief shot. Yes, a brief shot of somebody reforging it. I think there was a lot of speculation that it wasn't Kylo because of the hands.
But it's definitely not Kylo doing it.
Yeah.
It's a lackey, probably an Ugnaught or some type of creature like that.
Yeah, something equivalent to. Yeah, that makes sense. I think you're probably right. But I think it looks kind of cool.
Yeah, suits him.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see kind of what the circumstances is around when he wears it and when he doesn't, because obviously in the promotional images he's shown not wearing it. But then the promotional images might not be in the final film. I wonder if he might use it as kind of a ceremonial thing when he's Supreme Leader, and then when he's on his own sort of revenge missions and stuff like that, he takes it off and he's just bareface. Not bareface.
Yeah, not bareface. No, what you meant.
No,
he
doesn't look like a man who's going to grow a beard for this film.
No.
Which is, his right. But it's, I think it's kind of cool. I like the whole aesthetic they're going for, that kind of stitch back together thing. Do you think it kind of holds any significance in terms of the characterization and the arc he's going on?
I think it's got to.
Yeah.
I think there's got to be a meaning behind it, but as to what that might be, I'm either going to come out with nothing or everything. I'm going to either speculate wildly or just sit here and go, I've got literally no idea.
You're allowed to speculate as wildly as you like. It's all speculated. People understand this. We caveat with this pretty frequently.
On a metaphorical level, it could be, was the Last Jedi working alongside Rey to take on Snoke, almost kind of like a wavering, faltering step for him, and this is him reforging himself as the original Kylo Ren?
Maybe, yeah. I hadn't thought about it from that point of view personally, but that makes a lot of sense. His kind of journey is like he's still working towards the Supreme Leader thing, but that's a kind of blip almost. I wonder if I think the Supreme Leader thing is relevant. I think it's kind of prominent. I think my sense is more, I think it's kind of prominent. I think it's relevant. I think the Supreme Leader thing is relevant. I think it's kind of prominent. I think my sense is more, I think it's kind of prominent. 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 I think it's kind of pro well, I mean, it's an interpretation at least, that Last Jedi obviously has him being chewed out by Snoke for take that stupid mask off and all that stuff. And actually, the whole theme of the film is Kylo strong enough to kind of live up to Vader's legacy? By the end of Last Jedi, he's surpassed it because he's in charge. And so it's almost like, it almost feels like he's saying, forget Snoke, what does he know? I was able to kind of do more than Vader ever could, so it's clearly not the mask that was holding me back. It was Snoke. It was Snoke himself who's actually been the one impeding me, because now that he's gone, I'm in charge. I wonder how much that's kind of, maybe that's got something to do with it. It could be, but I mean, it could also be literally both. Neither one of those two.
Just be it looks awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's either way. That's indisputable. It's a cool mask, I think. It's got a little bit of a weird, it's got a bit of a weird look to it, but it's kind of cool, and it's very individual. It's not like a Darth Vader. It's not a Darth Vader knockoff, despite obviously the character being a bit of that. It's
Darth Vader influenced without when I first saw the Kylo Ren mask, like in the original photos released for Force Awakens, I thought it looked like Darth Revan more than it looked like Darth Vader.
Okay. Yeah.
It is a pretty cool design.
It is.
I like the back of it. It's almost like a German helmet flair to it as well. It's not a straight on the top of his head, and it's not like Vader's one comes out at a swoop. This has got a slight kick to it at the back, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I do. I like it. It actually looks like helmet is also designed to protect from head injury rather than just being purely ceremonial.
Yes, it's actually kind of got some practical application as well. Because, I mean, Vader's mask doesn't really protect him from much, does it? Because it's getting smashed in non-film stuff.
Just the air, to be honest. Yeah.
When it comes to non-film stuff, he's getting it smashed to pieces everywhere.
I don't know how many he goes through. No. I think it's because every artist thinks they're the first one to come up with the idea of doing it.
Maybe, yeah. It sort of feels like that early part. You've seen Batman Begins, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it sort of feels like that bit at the beginning where he's sort of going through the auditions of all the different bits and pieces and ordering, we'll order another 2,000 of the Type C and that sort of thing, rather than it sort of feels like he's working his way to the ideal one, and he'll know it when he'll know it when it doesn't get smashed off his face.
Yes.
That's probably. Can you imagine being that showroom attendant?
Yeah.
Can I help you? Hello. I would like a mask like this, exactly like this, but I don't want it to get smashed off when I'm killing rebels. So. I mean, we've got stuff, I won't lie. I don't know if it's going to do the job you need it to do, but I can show you some bits in other colours. No other colours. Always, basic black is always in fashion, and it's slimming too. I like the idea that Darth Vader's concerned about the slimming effects of his mask.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, it's head canon, but it's the kind that, doesn't really get in the way of anything else. It's not sand. It's, it can exist quite happily by itself. It's not a big deal. But I think I'm kind of happy that they've brought the mask back, because as much as I couldn't quite happily sit and watch Adam Driver's real face for 2 hours, that's fine.
He's a very lovely man.
Yeah, I mean, not even putting that aside, he doesn't have one of those faces that's so repulsive to me that I can't look at it. There's very few people who do.
But that is a fringe element you're dealing with there.
Very much so. I think it numbers in the 3.
Yeah,
for me, it's not many people at all. And I mean, some of them are probably just it's all just subjective. So ultimately, that's true anyway, regardless. But anyway. Vesuvi, hopefully those are satisfying answers to your questions, and let us know if it's not, and I'm sure you will be in touch either way. So our next message is somebody who needs our help, Brad.
Is it Dave in Australia?
It is not, no.
Oh, okay.
Again, you're good on you're way ahead of the curve here. I like this. It's good. You're sharp this week. So this one comes from Mark Airy. So, listeners, long-time listeners of Talk Star Wars will be familiar with the name, because he was... once the host of the very popular Toy Box podcast.
Yes.
And speaking of toys and games, Mark writes, "Hi guys, I'm thinking of buying one of the Star Wars board games.
Cool.
Not Escape from the Death Star, but it does have a cool Tarkin figure now, so maybe that is a cert."
It does, yeah.
I haven't seen Escape from the Death Star. What's the
Escape from Death Star was originally released in 1977. It was a tie-in for the movie. It's more or less a knockoff of Ludo trying to get off of the Death Star. It's I think Palitoy made it originally, but they did a reprint. As Mark said, there's now a little Tarkin figure included as well.
Nice. Does he have slippers on?
Wouldn't that be lovely? It's because it was a commercial product. It's very easy to get hold of on eBay, and with a bit of luck, you could find some charity shops and boot fairs as well.
Okay, fair enough.
And again, because they made so many, they're quite cheap to pick up a second-hand copy as well.
Oh, fair enough. That's good to know if I ever find myself so inclined. Although I think Outer Rim is on my shopping list first. But let's not get ahead of ourselves with regards to the naming of the games.
Okay, let's not.
So anyway, Mark said so he's interested in one of the big, expensive, expansive games. Now, I love my ships, but X-Wing just seems to be viable as a collection. You mentioned one of the games had Death Stars and Star Destroyers as well as characters, which seems almost too perfect.
Yeah, we did.
I know you talked a bit about them in the last show, but I'd like your perspective as more seasoned gamers. If only they did HeroClix for Star Wars. Now, there's an idea. Great show as always. All the best, Mark. Well, Mark, thank you for writing in. So let's dive into the meat of the question. So first of all, Star Wars HeroClix. There are
two potential things that could be considered Star Wars HeroClix. Wizards of the Coast had the tabletop license for several years, and they had a tradable miniatures game, including an 8080, which was huge.
Yes.
But they're kind of like, they were 20 to 25 mil figures, I think. So that's sort of Airfix scale, a bit smaller than Warhammer scale.
Yeah.
Very easy to get second hand on eBay, and a bit of Google foo or shopping around on eBay will doubtless get you a rule book as well. It was very highly thought of, but it is all definitely old canon. You're getting a lot of expanded universe materials mixed in there. I never played it myself, but the people who loved it really, really loved it.
Yeah.
The alternative is Imperial Assault, which can be played as a competitive skirmish game as well as a dungeon crawl. To my mind, it feels a little bit like an afterthought. I think the dungeon crawl and the RPG side is the main focus of Imperial Assault.
Yeah.
And the ability to do the skirmish games really does feel a bit like a bolt-on. But that's not a majority opinion. That's just my personal opinion. A lot of people play the skirmish game and really enjoy it as well. Yes. Yeah. So that's the closest Star Wars has to HeroClix.
But they never had the proper license for HeroClix for the Star Wars license. That's always been Wizards of the Coast, and then Fantasy Flight after that. And Fantasy Flight, I don't think are going to lose it anytime soon.
Western Games.
Oh, yes.
Then Wizards of the Coast, and then Fantasy Flight hold it at the moment in conjunction with Hasbro.
Yes, indeed. Oh yeah, because Star Wars Monopoly and stuff are all Hasbro, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah. The risk is good. I will say that.
Yes, I've heard that's very good. I'd like to play that actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it's an episode in that. Who knows?
Oh, well, we were looking for a game to do a games cast of.
There you go. So then at that level, there's those games. So the Wizards of the Coast one, I think you're right. If you're not fussy about which figures you get, they're very easy to get hold of. If you want the really cool characters, they are gold dust.
Okay.
Right. A good example is all the Force Unleashed stuff. They did a Force Unleashed set.
Right.
All of the figures, all the cool figures associated with that are like lightning in a bottle. If you get them,
that was towards the end of the license, I think, so it might not have had the print run size of the rest of them.
That's entirely possible. Yeah, I don't really know the sort of ins and outs of it. All I know is that when I was looking for custom clicks conversion options, I looked for Starkiller and was dismayed to find that when I could find one, he was only available abroad, and even then was stupid money. So I did knock that on the head. And let's be fair, I'm not short of HeroClix, so I'm.
No, that's true.
Yeah, certainly not in any desperate need of increasing my collection artificially. Yeah. So X-Wing as a collection, I know it's got a. I'm
not really sure what he means by that.
Well, I think it's more. Maybe if you're not playing competitively, it doesn't appeal to him kind of looking in.
There is a strong competitive scene for X-Wing. A lot of tournaments going on all the time. I'm here from E14, so the guy to talk to about that kind of thing. He's very into that scene.
Yes.
I am not. I'm a theme and narrative-driven gamer. But there's absolutely nothing to stop you playing X-Wing at home playing X-Wing with your friends. You don't have to do a tourney scene just because a game has a tourney scene.
No, not at all.
Blood Bowl's got a tourney scene. I've never played in a Blood Bowl tournament.
No,
I just enjoy playing the game with my friends.
Yeah.
There's very, very few games of tournament exclusive only. I mean, you can Magic the Gathering's got a huge tournament scene. There's nothing to stop you getting a couple of decks and just playing with your friends in your dining room.
For sure, yeah. I mean, there's enough in the core set for X-Wing to play, certainly to start you off and play for a fair bit, get a few games out of it, get your head around the rules, and then you can go and buy the bits and pieces that interest you.
Totally, yeah. And Fantasy Flight stuff is all beautifully modular as well. You're never going to be in a situation where, this expansion, you do need this expansion to be able to on as well. Everything is compatible purely with a core set so far.
Yeah. I mean, I've never found anything prohibitive about the X-Wing game. Anything that, any new functionality or any kind of new mechanics tend to come bundled in with the ship therefore.
Yeah.
But I've never had, I've a small to medium size X-Wing collection. And I upgraded my cards and stuff to second edition a few months ago, just for the sake of having everything up to date. I've not found anything to my recollection that kind of made me think, I can't play that if it's going to have that rule in. So I would say there's nothing that sort of speaks to me as like, you definitely couldn't play because of this. Like, if anything, it's quite, like you say, it's very modular. You can just buy the ships you want. You can just run a faction. You can have, the core set is Rebels and Imperials, but you can just have the scum ships. And as long as you've got a copy of the rules somewhere, you go. Yeah. You don't need the stuff in the core set. It just helps. You can get the rules. I would imagine Fantasy Flight are usually pretty good at print and play stuff as a backup copy or a replacement for. So I can't imagine it would be a problem. But I mean, as a collection, I don't know that there's much interest in that. Certainly for the sort of enthusiast types, I guess. I've never known that to be the case. I say it's more about the sort of, the casual and competitive play. People just tend to buy the ships they want.
Yeah.
And in my experience, all the sort of attempts to turn it into a sort of almost like commodity trade is just kind of met with no success. All the retailers I've seen who's tried to sort of make the cards highly sought after and stuff is not really going to go anywhere, because you can just go to any shop that sells sort of board games and similar things and buy the ship you want that's got the cards, and you get the ship as well.
Yeah, totally.
I've never really understood how that's going to work as a business model, but then at the same time, I don't run a business, so maybe that's why. Who really knows?
Yeah, it's not a process I've ever been able to follow.
No. So working our way up through the scales then, so X-Wing up to Armada.
I mean, Imperial Assault, we've mentioned.
We did, we touched on that one, yeah.
Armada is for capital ship system, so you've got your Star Destroyers are about 6-7 inches long. Your squadrons are there, but I mean it's quite a small scale. On a base about an inch across, you'll have 3 TIE fighters.
Yeah.
Or the Falcon, I really like Armada. Armada is the deeper, considerably more deeper and more strategic than X-Wing. X-Wing feels very arcadey at times, in that you're able to react quite quickly. You can do stuff spontaneously. Armada, with some of the bigger ships, because you've got a chain of command to work around. Sometimes you're plotting 3 turns in advance for some of the larger ships, what you want their orders to be. You've got some reaction leeway, but the bulk of the planning is done like 3 turns in advance. And the game runs for 6 turns, so something like an Imperial class Star Destroyer or the Home One is half its games planned out before you start playing. I've always, it's a generalization, but I do feel there's a lot of truth in it to say that Legion and X-Wing are tabletop games for Star Wars fans,
whereas
Armada is a Star Wars game for tabletop fans.
I get you. So the people who are more into the kind of the slightly deeper pulls in terms of rule sets and things like that are going to get more out of Armada than X-Wing and Legion.
Yeah, if you've never done any tabletop gaming before, Armada's probably not the best one to jump feet first in with.
No.
You can. The rules are fine. The rules aren't overly complicated, but just a lot of the concepts and strategies really are things you've picked up in other systems.
Yeah.
By that time,
I get you.
Prove me wrong. If Armada interests you, then the rulebook is great. The rules are fun. You will have a great time doing it. But there's just something about it you might have a bit of a harder time with because I think it assumes a lot of prior knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
More in terms of the strategy, it assumes you will know the interplay. It will assume you will know.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of perseverance. If it's genuinely a game you want to play, then go feet first with it. But,
yeah, totally.
I don't believe it's conceived that way.
No. I would concur. I've not played as much Armada as you, but I would even with that said, I would agree, kind of broadly speaking, with everything you said there. So it's very much like I enjoy when I play it, but it would be unlikely that it would be one I would pick first out of a selection.
Yeah, that's
just because it does kind of is one of those ones where it's like, what I really fancy playing is that, and then that's what you want to play. But otherwise, it's like.
If you rocked up a game midnight and I said, we're playing Armada tonight, you'd be like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But if it's, if it was...
If I said to you, here are the three on the table for tonight. Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. So then I suspect when Mark's talking about the ones with Death Stars and Star Destroyers as well as characters, I think he's talking about Rebellion.
I think he's definitely talking about Rebellion, yes. And I can't think of any other...
I commend his good taste in that matter.
Rebellion is not only my favourite Star Wars tabletop game, I would go so far as to say it's probably in my top 3 tabletop games, full stop.
Yeah, it's very good.
Incredibly good.
Yeah.
It's deep, it's strategic, it's thematic. For me personally, it's narrative driven as well. I feel like the way it captures Star Wars so well is that on its surface value, you look at the board and, as you said, there's Death Stars and Star Destroyers and TIE Fighter Squadrons and AT-ATs. So if you want to play with the big stuff, the stuff that's even too big for Armada and Legion, like AT-ATs and Superstar Destroyers,
Death Stars.
And Death Stars, yeah. If you want to be playing with that kind of stuff, Rebellion is the scale you want to be playing at.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's like Star Wars because on the surface value, it's a war game.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It doesn't play like a war game. The way the things are manipulated on the board and the way the story pushes forward is through characters. Everything you do in that game will come from a team of 4 to 8 characters you've managed to recruit for either the Empire or the Rebel Alliance. And that's what makes it feel so Star Wars. There's this background with the emphasis on background of the Galactic Civil War, but it's the characters and the heroes and the villains which actually hook you and actually drive what happens. Yeah, that's me is why it's the Star Wars game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's of the games we've outlined, and the ones we're going to go on to talk about in a minute. I would say it's the one that springs to mind as like that's the one I remember every game of that one.
It's so good. I've got the expansion because I did a Rogue One expansion. I haven't got around to playing it yet.
I keep meaning to buy it, but last time I saw it on a shelf, it was stupid price, and I just went, nah, forget it.
Fantasy Flight does go through kind of cyclical print runs, so just I'd wait it out if I were you.
Yeah, because, just patience is always good.
Yeah. And there's enough in the core set, you're not going to get bored for a while yet.
Yeah, also true.
But no, obviously that introduces a lot more supporting characters. Like I know Jabba the Hutt's a playable character of the Empire in it. All the crew of Rogue One are playable characters in it. It gives you an alternate setup because Rebellion in the core set, the story starts the moment the last rivet goes in place of the Death Star. The Death Star becomes operational. That's when your story starts. With the Rogue One expansion, it happens while the first Death Star is still under construction.
Okay, nice.
And also, apparently it completely rips out the combat system and replaces it with an entirely new combat system. And everyone I've heard has said it's so much better. It's actually a narrative-driven combat system.
Okay, nice. Yeah, because I never... It's interesting because I wouldn't have... if you said, is there anything you'd change about Rebellion? I don't know that I'd go to the combat system.
No.
Because it's fine.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's fine, but I get the impression that over that year between Rebellion and the expansion, they kind of went, you know what? Actually, everything else is so thematic. Everything else is so narrative.
Yeah,
this feels incongruous. Let's retweak this.
Yeah, that's entirely possible that it's just as simple as, you know what, some other stuff's come out that does a really good job with this mechanic.
Yeah,
maybe they had something kind of not quite ready for production, but kind of on the drawing boards, and then maybe they go back to it and say, okay, so let's make it work.
Yeah,
because other systems are having a better time of it than we are. Maybe something like that.
But yeah, Rebellion is a hard double thumbs up from me. It's genuinely incredible.
Yeah, and then there's one we haven't mentioned yet, obviously. But I know it's not the one that Mark's referencing, because obviously it mentions
Legion.
Yeah, he mentions Death Stars and Star Destroyers, and they're definitely not a part of Legion. But I mean,
no,
this is. I feel like this is your wheelhouse.
The largest scale of Legion released so far is T-47s, ATSTs, the riot control tank from Rogue One, and like a Luke's land speeder.
Which looks very cool, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Check out our Instagram at Firewind UK for me doing passable paint jobs.
Yes.
There's.
I think you give yourself too little credit there, but people can certainly make their own minds up by viewing the Instagram profile.
It's just an artist thing. You only ever see the bits you got wrong. You only ever see the mistakes you made. No one else does. So you're always more critical of your own stuff. Legion is the closest. It is more like Warhammer or bolt action. It's definitely a ground combat skirmish game. I absolutely love Legion, and I'm really glad that through Fantasy Flight we were able to get on the ground floor. Of that once we've been there. I think there was like 2 weeks between Legion being released and us getting the first episode out. It was a really fast turnaround. Legions is my go-to system at the moment, mostly because Fire and Ready, we film 25, 26 times a year to kind of keep that trucking. So we play a lot of games of it. We're always kind of keen on the news and stuff for it. It has a strong tournament scene. I'm not a tournament gamer. I like to play the theme and the narrative stuff. If you try to play a tournament with any of my lists, you will lose very, very badly. But they're really, really fun to play and feel like they've. I try and do ones that feel like they could be in a Star Wars video game or a Star Wars comic or whatever.
Yeah, I get you.
Like the one we're doing on Sunday, which looks really cool.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Legion is a great ground combat skirmish game, but if you're going to be pushing around Death Stars and stuff, then no.
Not so much.
The closest you've got is Krennic as an ability, can kind of use the threat of the Death Star coming up over the horizon.
Oh wow! Nice.
But it's, basically everyone on the board gets suppression points when it turns up.
So I've just mental image has just popped into my head of Krennic going, we stand here amidst my achievements, not yours. And the Death Star just leans up over the top of the planet and goes, it's like a school bully's mates. Like just using the Death Star as his toadies,
Similarly, Veers can call in a strike from an AT-AT. But it's off board. There's no
there's no physical representation of that unless
once per game
unless you're bloody good with MDF.
I've seen people do it, and they're huge, absolutely huge.
And I think it was good with MDF.
I think it was actually at Celebration. They had a remote control AT-AT walking across the board.
Nice, that's awesome.
It was incredible.
Very, very cool.
A lot of very talented people out there, and me
for sure.
So
I am also here.
If you want to see Legion and Armada and stuff, and you want to check out Firewind Ready on Emotionally 14
on the YouTube, it's available on the E14 website, and you can find it on the YouTube channel as well. So if people are interested in Star Wars tabletop and want to get a feel for what the games are like, then that's a good place to start. I feel like we've missed what's it called? Loopin' Chewie?
Loopin' Chewie is a thing.
Doesn't have any Death Stars.
Doesn't have any. I don't know, to be honest with you.
I think it's just a Falcon, isn't it?
I think I don't know if there's a Death Star flying past or.
For those keeping score at home, I'm not recommending you go out and buy Loopin' Chewie because not really the sort of game that Mark is describing here, I would say.
No. It has its place, but I don't think it's what he's after.
No, I don't think so.
The only other one, obviously, is the Outer Rim is the brand new release.
Brand new.
Came out.
What, last week?
Yes, last Thursday was the day of release.
Yeah, so it's been out at the time of
It's probably
recording.
only just come out over here, I think.
Yeah, time of recording, it's been out literally a week.
Yeah, we have a copy. I've opened it up, had a pour through it, but I haven't had a chance to get it on the table yet.
Yeah.
Reviews of it are absolutely stellar. Mm-hmm. It looks very much like an Elite or Privateer or Elder Scrolls type open world game.
Okay. Nice.
So yeah, with you playing as a rebel and a rogue or a scum or a villainy, trying to make a name for yourself in the Outer Rim, it looks so much fun. And a huge cast of NPCs as well by the look of it.
That sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does looks a lot of fun.
Should be a good time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's brand new. So it's hard to say with that one whether it's going to be good or not. It's been, early impressions I've seen have been very positive.
Reviews are stellar so far. I've seen very little negative feedback on it.
Yeah, which is nice to know, you know.
Yeah, and it's 1 to 4 players, that one, and Rebellion is 2 to 4.
Okay, nice. So, Rebellion is the game that it sounds like everybody is going to recommend.
Rebellion I still stand by as being genuinely one of the best game designs that I've ever played, I think.
Okay, nice. High praise indeed. You played a fair few.
I've played a fair few. Yeah, Rebellion is a genuinely flawless game, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, Mark, there you go. Rebellion, that is the game we would recommend to you. So if you do pick it up and you play it, let us know how you get on. Mm-hmm. So our final email of the evening comes from Dave in Australia. And Dave writes, "G'day, gents. Thanks again for giving us some Star Wars banter during some quiet Star Wars times. I couldn't agree with you more when you listed Solo, a Star Wars story, as one of those things you'd like to see fandom give a little more love toward and get more excited about. I absolutely love the movie. I thought it was a fun ride, and it gave us some good fan service in relation to a few of the saga's most popular characters. The film gave us some backstory on Chewie, Lando, and the Falcon, not just Han. I'd go as far as to say that Solo would be in my top 5 Star Wars films amongst Empire, A New Hope, Rogue One, and Revenge of the Sith. I'm often amazed at all the negativity surrounding the film, and I can't help but feel sorry for the actors who I believe did a fantastic job portraying our much-loved characters.
Absolutely.
Especially Ehrenreich, who had a massive task in portraying a young Solo, and I believe he nailed it.
Absolutely.
It appeared to me that the makers of the film had set it up for a follow-on or sequel. Do you believe this was the intention also? Shall we tackle question by question?
I'll follow your lead. Yeah, of course. They were really, every other Star Wars movie has managed to tie into another story in one capacity, so why wouldn't maybe expecting this one to be any different? I don't know if it was necessarily setting up a second Solo movie. I think they were going to try and go somewhere with Kira, personally.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's entirely possible. I think I read, so this is the thing I was going to circle back to from earlier. So one of the things that Ron Howard talked about, the read I got of what he said suggested that it wasn't so much that he wrote it specifically. It's not like there was a sequel trilogy that got canned. That was very much made clear by the way he sort of worded it. Because I think that was the kind of, it wasn't the question they asked, but it was kind of what they were driving at, was sort of the thinking that maybe there were more movies in the works that got canned because the box office wasn't quite up to par. Mm-hmm. But that was very much something that he was very keen to stress was not the case. Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think that they were probably just, I mean, you know, ultimately Rogue One is probably the only film that doesn't leave any threads open.
Yeah, but just because it dovetails exactly into...
Exactly, yeah. So
there's not anywhere they could go with it unless they did, I don't know, a Cassian Andor prequel series or something.
Yeah, exactly. So the only option they've got is prequels rather than anything following on. Yeah. Because let's be fair, all the new characters are, you know, it's a good thing we didn't get attached, right?
Maybe there's a Tarkin spin-off they could do.
Maybe.
Look who's Tarkin.
Whereas I think that Solo had a lot more open threads. I will say, I think actually Han and Chewie's story is done at that point. Because you just, you know, they end the film about to go and basically tap up Jabba the Hutt for work. And that's where we meet them, is, you know, kind of at the tail end of where they're comfortable working for Jabba. Yeah. So the limit of Jabba's patience and the limit of kind of Han Solo's ability to brag his way out of the situation.
Yeah.
So I think that in terms of the likelihood of a sequel there, I think it's not going to be Han and Chewie. It would be maybe a Lando, something like that.
Maybe, yeah. So I think Kira had the most interesting setup, working off with.
She could totally work as a side piece, as a side film that could then go on and tell more stories. I think that would, if you were going to pick some characters who might have been able to work out of that, I think she would be a really good pick. I know everybody makes a lot of noise about Enfys Nest. I don't know that the characters are. I don't know. They could probably do. I think they'd probably better suited to TV if they did something with them rather than a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it would basically be Star Wars: Sons of Anarchy by that point.
Kind of, yeah. I think some of the more obscure characters I think would lend themselves more to TV, much in the same way that they did with the Marvel series, where they've had things like with all the love in the world to Daredevil, is not. I would say one of the top tier characters that you'd expect to be in the Endgame. No, God no. But he does merit, on-screen treatment. So that side of things, I think that's kind of the way I see Enfys Nest and the Cloud. Is it Cloud Riders?
Yes,
that sounds right. They strike me as more. You could sort of do an episode following a couple of the different characters, a couple of different characters each time, with Enfys as a kind of thread that keeps them all centrally linked. But I think a movie of that it's just one of those, oh, that's a cool looking character, I want all the things. It's that kind of reaction at play. Yeah. And that's fine. I don't fall out with that as a reaction. If you like something, it's understandable to want more of it. But I just sort of feel like, generally speaking, it just kind of suits a serialized format more, especially as there's a group of them. It just makes sense to me that would be kind of more like it would be a better fit, I think. Anyway, moving on to further questions from Dave. Do you think that a sequel to the film could still be a possibility if Lucasfilm and Disney appreciate the fact that possibly Solo's lackluster box office performance had more to do with the fandom fallout from Last Jedi than actually Solo being a poor film?
I don't believe it had much to do with fandom fallout from Last Jedi. I think it was more to do with how. No, it's unfair to say how badly it was promoted. It would be more accurate to say the complete lack of promotion received in any in any channel whatsoever.
It didn't help. They
just assumed that they could release a Star Wars movie and people would turn up. I had Star Wars people I would have considered Star Wars fans didn't even know it was coming out 2 weeks before it came out.
Yeah, exactly.
The support for it was non-existent. I don't believe anyone was so put off by Last Jedi that they didn't want to go and see Solo, which they knew was going to be a very different sort of film.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a few people, but
I think they're in the minority.
The definite minority. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of Last Jedi, but I still wanted to go and see Solo because I knew it's a completely different era. They'd said from the start it's going to be a completely different tone.
Yeah.
A film, a completely different creative team. There's. But that seems strange to me.
Yeah,
I can't get on board with that.
Yeah, I don't agree with the notion that the fandom thing is a big part of that. I think that's a product that kind of thinking. And I'm not, I don't mean to say this to have as in saying it to have a go at Dave, because I don't think he's suggesting that it's like only down to that. But I think part of the reason that's seen as like, oh, well, that's the reason, obviously, is because of those deceptively selective clickbait articles.
Well, exactly.
Stuff like that, that's saying, oh, it's only because of that. It's not. It's nothing. It's the same round of outlets, I'm sure, that round the time was saying, oh, it's flopping, it's bombing. They're using really hyperbolic and charged language, and then they turn around and say, oh, it wasn't a bad film. It's like, well, pick one. You use this kind of terminology to suggest that it's tanking, which often has a kind of. It's regrettable that it does, but again, fandom brings it on itself. When people were saying, oh, I didn't like Last Jedi, and there were people unironically saying, well, it made $1 billion, so clearly you're wrong.
Yeah.
And then Solo comes out and doesn't do so well at the box office, suddenly your argument's undone because then you're trying to go, oh, well, no, it's a good film. It just didn't do well at the box office. You've just tied those things intrinsically by using it as a rubbish argument to defend Last Jedi. If you like the film, just like the film. It's not a,
Yeah.
So I went off on one there a bit. You have a go.
No, it's all right, I will. Will do, sir. It's weird. It's very. I feel like I'm going to just start a sentence in a minute. I feel like it's something I say most episodes of this show. It's very hard to get this kind of cognitive dissonance that we speak for the majority of Star Wars fans, when the majority of Star Wars fans probably don't even bother listening to a Star Wars podcast.
No, that's
because the majority of Star Wars fans are casual fans who enjoy the Star Wars movies, might own a Star Wars t-shirt, can name the characters. They don't have to dedicate their lives to Star Wars like me, you, and some people do. And we do.
More power to you.
We love it. Wouldn't change it for the world. But that I understand I am in the minority of what I would consider Star Wars fans, because to me, I don't think you should have to pass a written exam to consider yourself a Star Wars fan. All you have to do is you have to like Star Wars, and you're a Star Wars fan. That's literally all you have to do.
Yeah.
And I don't believe these casual fans. Casual fans sounds dismissive, but you know what I mean. It's the sort of people who like Star Wars but aren't subscribed to this podcast.
Or they like they go to the blockbusters. They like the big spectacle films.
Yeah.
Star Wars is indisputably one of those films.
Yeah,
and you say, they like those movies because they're big blockbuster films. And that's enough. Yeah,
I mean, I like the Indiana Jones movies. I don't listen to Indiana Jones podcasts or read Indiana Jones comics.
Exactly.
That's people. I think more people compare Star Wars to Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Anyway, the vast majority of people who went to see Last Jedi enjoyed The Last Jedi, or didn't think it was as good as the last one, or really liked some bits, or just didn't like it.
Yeah.
And then they left the cinema.
Yeah.
And they would have come back for Solo if Disney had bothered to mention that there was a Star Wars movie coming out, rather than having it covered up by the fact Infinity War dropped 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those annoying things. Yeah,
The Last Jedi backlash was responsible for the disappointing box office performance of Solo. No. I just don't. It's there's a lot of people who really hate The Last Jedi and have convinced themselves that there was some sort of cosmic karma in the fact that Solo didn't do so well, when actually all it's done is meant that a really good movie didn't do very well.
Yeah, but that happens, right?
And it does. It happens for the best of us.
And like I say, I think I've no doubt there are a bunch of fans who didn't go and see it because they didn't like Last Jedi and because they think maybe they think the franchise is going in the wrong direction. That's their right, and again, more power to them if that's what they want to do and how they want to spend their time and money. That's up to them, right? So, but I think fandom has to pick either the group of fans who hated The Last Jedi is insignificant and didn't make a dent in anything, or they're a massive force who can bring down a movie. You can't have both.
If they were a massive force who could have bring down a movie, then they could have convinced Disney to do their remake.
Entirely possible, yeah. I mean, either way, it strikes me that you can't simultaneously hold the belief that they're nobodies who should be ignored and derided and stuff, which, that's not cool anyway. Like, just people are allowed to not like stuff, that's fine. But you can't hold the belief simultaneously that they are insignificant and can be completely disregarded in the grand scheme, and simultaneously believe that they are capable of bringing down multi-million-dollar box office enterprises. It's just not. It just doesn't work. And like I say, I think part of the reason is because there's this kind of selective nature of, that it's the same. It comes back to that same thing about Last Jedi did well at the box office, so clearly you're wrong to dislike it. And then, oh wait, Solo didn't do well at the box office, and I've just undone my own argument by using it reusing it in a particularly, ill-advised way to try and objectively value something by subjective popularity. It just doesn't work. We've come back to it. We talked about it on the show before, and I know it does the rounds every now and then. Avatar is the most popular box office film of all time by revenue and has left no cultural footprint whatsoever over the years. It just hasn't.
Yeah.
Like, people are talking about it again now because there's another one coming. But in those, 10 years is a long time between which there was nothing. No discussion really about it except by super fans. And again, more power to those people. Good for you. But, the box office success isn't everything. Popularity isn't everything. These are just things. There's no kind of rhyme or reason to it beyond that. It's just life. We just kind of move on with that.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't believe that Solo's box office performance was a result of Last Jedi. I just can't correlate that.
I can't say it's the only factor. I just can't, it's just not possible. Just by the definition of, like I say, Ron Howard doesn't even think that.
No, and
he made the film. And if I trust anybody to know, I would say he's a fair.
He has a unique perspective for sure.
I think that's fair. But anyway, we digress. So, with that said, do we think the sequel could still be a sequel could still be a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. If it makes enough money on home video release, these things happen. Lots of movies perform pretty dismally at the cinema and end up. That's literally the definition of a cult movie, is one that flops on its initial release and picks up a following later on. I mean, something like The Shawshank Redemption bombed, lost a load of money at the cinema, but now it's considered like one of the best films ever made.
That's true. Yeah, it's a very highly regarded movie.
Shawshank Redemption is a perfect example of a cult movie.
Yes.
It happens. Big Trouble in Little China, it crashed and burned at the cinema.
Yeah.
Basically because the Eddie Murphy movie, The Golden Child, didn't perform as well as they thought it was going to. So they decided that the zeitgeist wasn't there for this kind of Asian-influenced American horror comedy.
Yeah.
And slashed its advertising budget in half. So then Big Trouble crashed and burned.
Yeah.
Everyone who sees it, you meet very few people who've got a bad word to say about Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, indeed.
And Solo absolutely has the potential to a sequel if it's able to build an audience after the event. If it starts making money on home release or through merchandising or any other means of doing so, absolutely Disney will sit up and take notice.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, it's Star Wars. If it doesn't get a movie sequel, it will get comics and books and stuff.
It's already had comics and book
there's
tie-ins
been,
and stuff.
Most Wanted and stuff. Yeah,
Last Shot. So, is it Last Shot or One Shot?
Most Wanted.
There's Most Wanted's one, but there's also...
Last Shot
or what? Last Shot or One Shot?
Last Shot, yes, you're right. Most Wanted was the young adult novel, which was young Kira and young Han.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Last Shot was, the time frame was split between kind of flashbacks to young Lando and young Han.
Yes.
And post Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Lando and Han as well. It's got like flashing back and forward a lot. It's good.
Yeah. And then they've got the Han Solo Imperial Cadet comic.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's plenty going on.
Star Wars very, very rarely lets anything
completely drop off the radar.
Yeah. No. So the characters will be back in some form, and they will have more adventures in some form. In all my heart, I would love for them to do a Solo too, because it was such a fun movie, and the characters had so much they could do. If they don't get another movie or they don't do a Disney Plus exclusive TV show, the characters will live on in some form.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll do an audio drama like you did for Jedi Lost. That'd be amazing.
That would be pretty cool. Mark Thompson could pretty much do all of it.
Yeah.
But then, that's true of him in general. He's a very talented dude.
Yeah.
So, Dave's final question. I'd love to see a follow-on from Solo. If there were to be one, what would you expect or like to see in it? Intertwining side stories could include the coming together of rebel cells, or Darth Maul and Kira's control of Crimson Dawn, or Han and Chewie hitting Tatooine for the first time and meeting Jabba. Or what about the Han Solo Boba Fett encounter? There could be so much fun had with the sequel Solo movie. Would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks again. Take care and may the force be with you. Dave in Australia. Solo sequel.
I do think Kira and kind of like the Shadow Collective thing.
Yeah. That seems like the richest. That seems like the richest vein in terms of options.
And you could have them pulling the strings behind Jabba, which have been working with Han and Chewie working for them as well.
Oh yeah, that does work.
Because if Crimson Dawn's, I'm not saying they're in control or influencing on the cartel, but they must be aware of each other.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
And obviously Black Sun is still running around as well, as far as where does Maul run Black Sun by that point?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm not quite up on that particular bit of the timeline.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit rusty on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Lando, just a series of Lando adventures would be great, to be honest, but I see him as more vehicular, I guess. So you could just do a series of short stories for Lando. I don't know if there's an overarching story to be told with him.
Yeah, I think he could turn up in a lot of things. He's very... I think he's quite versatile in that regard. He can be used in a storytelling context pretty much anywhere. Obviously, he's turned up in odd episodes of Rebels.
Yes.
And I think that kind of plays to his strengths as what he's probably doing behind the scenes at that point.
Yeah.
He probably is kind of working his way up to Cloud City. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, kind of doing it in a way that's it's a mix. It's going to be a mix of hard work and, grifting.
Yes.
Building up a little bit of capital to then make more money by gambling.
Oh, just call it Lando, the Graft and the Grift. I like that.
Yeah, that's good. And do you know what? Actually, that's our episode title as well. The Graft and the Grift.
Oh, you still got it.
And the Grift. I'm going to make a note of that so that I know when it comes back. So, if we're talking about these ones, so the Rebel Cells thing could kind of work. Darth Maul and Kira, definitely. Mm-hmm. Han and Chewie hitting Tatooine for the first time. I kind of touched on it earlier. I feel like that's a story that's already kind of done as much as it needs to. The Han and Boba Fett thing, you could totally have them just kind of cross paths randomly in a sort of...
Yeah, I don't know. Is there a big beef between Boba Fett and Han Solo? Because I don't know I want there to be, because I thought that was one of the weaknesses of the old expanded universe, was constantly bashing those two against each other.
Yeah. Just like, whereas what you actually want is just... It's just business, and actually maybe you almost want the opposite. You want kind of grudging respect for each other because they're both good at what they do, and it's just unfortunate for Han that Boba Fett's the one kind of coming after him because he knows what he's doing.
Yep.
And maybe he's seen Han do that trick on with the rubbish and the floating away before.
Yeah.
Maybe he's seen it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, maybe he's seen it, and so he knows what to look for. And obviously Han doesn't know he's being pursued, I don't think, at that point.
No, I don't think he's aware.
He knows Jabba's looking for him, but I think that's as far as it goes, right? I think that's right. I think that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
But, I say the Han and Chewie thing I feel like has been done sufficiently thoroughly already that you don't really need it beyond that point. I think it's served its purpose, and that's all you need, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, realistically speaking, I think Kira and Maul is the story that would be interesting to see more of. Unless you go, I say Emperor's Nest and the Cloud Rider Gang as a TV series could totally work. Mm-hmm. But I think, to be honest, I would go as far as to say that any of those plot points, I think, would suit TV better than film.
I agree.
Yeah, I think if they're going to do a solo sort of sequel property, I think it would be a TV series, and I think it would be all the better for it. That would be my sort of take on it. And I think I get the impression they're going to try and work more towards the TV end of things when it comes to the side projects, and the films are going to be the story. The films are going to be the big grand narratives, and then the side stories are going to be told using Disney Plus, because every series they announce is another hook for Disney Plus.
Yep.
Because all it takes is just that, with all these streaming services, and it's true of, when the new wave of games consoles comes and that sort of thing, when there's a new format of like disc, like DVD or Blu-ray, it just takes, all that it takes is for enough stuff to come out that you go, oh yeah, no, do you know what? Now it's time for me to jump in. Mm-hmm. That's all it requires. It's just that initial, build up of stuff to get to the point where it's like, okay, now it's time for me to jump in on this and go in with both feet. Mm-hmm. I think that, the streaming services are no different. If anything, they're probably the best example of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think Disney Plus is going to be bolstering with a lot of this TV stuff. And I think that's where you're going to see, you might even see Han and Chewie adventures there maybe you would. Then I think actually that would probably be one of those things that wouldn't outstay its welcome. Whereas I think the movies, I think you could probably run out of steam fairly quickly with Han and Chewie movies up until New Hope. Whereas a TV series, you could probably keep it going for a couple of seasons and then just have them dovetail into the beginning of A New Hope, and away you go.
Yeah.
Just like they've done with, Rebels. I mean, I don't know about Resistance because obviously we seem to be not allowed it as a nation. Not sure what we've done, but I'm sure we deserve it, whatever it was. But, who knows? Who knows indeed. So, Dave, thank you for your email, and thank you to everybody who's taken the time to send some email in this week. If you want to send some email in next week, then the place to do that is podcast@emotionally14.com. You can send us questions, comments, feedback on previous episodes, stuff to talk about in new episodes. Any and all things, we will talk Star Wars. That is the theme of the show, is the name of the show. It could not be more clear-cut, to be honest, I feel.
Yeah, it does exactly what it says on the tin.
Exactly. So Talk Star Wars is an Emotionally 14 production, and you can find it on the web at emotionally14.com. You can also get to the show directly on talkstarwars.co.uk, which just gives you basically a link to the player, so you can just play the episodes on that page. You can also, if you're a Patreon user and you want to support Talk Star Wars and, put a little bit of change towards some fun stuff for us and maybe sort of help us with our running costs, which are, not insurmountable, but at the same time consistent, then you can do so by visiting patreon.com/talkstarwars. It costs $1 a month or whatever you care to donate. And you get, in return for that, as a way of saying thank you, you get an access to an ad-free version of the feed, which drops on a Saturday, UK time, instead of a Monday. So you get the episode a little bit earlier and you get a chance to hear it a couple of days before the rest of the world. And I think that's well worth it, ultimately. For $1 a month, there's very few things that are that good value, I think. Certainly, all the streaming services require a lot more money than that. So, there's that. Brad, social media, where are you?
I'm on the couch, mate.
No, social media.
All right.
The social media where he is.
If you want to keep up with what I'm doing, you can check out my Star Wars tabletop gaming show at Firewind Ready UK on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to be my friend on Facebook, so you can hear my ranty tirades, look at books I'm reading, and just bug me through Messenger most of the day. I'm usually there ready to be talked to. Then you can add me on facebook.com/Brad Harmer Barnes. If you want to listen to me ramble about nothing in particular on Twitter, or occasionally boast photos of nothing in particular, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RealBradHB. And you can, of course, if you're feeling so kind, you can buy my books through Audible and Amazon.
Yes, you can, and you can access those via the Team E14 page on emotionally14.com. There's a little link underneath the pictures of Brad where you can go to buy the books, and you can do that through the affiliate store. Anything you buy while you've got the affiliate thing in doesn't cost you any extra, and again, it just chips a little bit in towards our running costs. And it's always appreciated. I can be found on social media at Rob Wade Vision on Twitter and Instagram. As I say, I've been on a little bit of a break, so it's been a bit quiet, but I'm planning on slowly dipping my toe back into those waters in the not too distant future. And you've also got access via Twitter and Instagram to Talk Star Wars and Emotionally 14 directly at Emotionally 14 and at Talk Star Wars respectively. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. So in addition to Talk Star Wars, the network includes Tumbling Saber, the Generation X-Wing podcast, the Nerd Room podcast, the Rogue Squadron podcast, the Sandcrawler cast with Dan and Mike, the Retro Inc. podcast, and the San Diego Sabres radio podcast. There's 8 wonderful outlets with significantly large amounts of material every week for you to enjoy. And you can visit on the web at StarWarsCommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world there. Thank you very much for listening to Talk Star Wars this week. We will see you again next week for episode 173. And until then, be good to each other, and may the Force be with you.